Alright, here's the front of my golf cart. I have no lights. So what we're going to do today is put some lights on the golf cart, and here's the light kit that I bought. Here's the kit. Came with some tie wraps. Show you the wiring harness. Wiring harness has a knob for the lights. It's on the dash. Connections. Inline fuse. Do this. So there's one of the lights. Here's a tail light. So they give you a template here. It's a single template. You cut it out, you flip it over for the other side for the headlight. And they give you a template for the tail light. So we're gonna cut these out. All right, so the template fits this area here that I was outlining earlier. The template's for the right side. You flip it over when you move it to the left side. So I've cut it out the inner part. I cut out the outside line that's supposed to line up with the body lines, and then I'll draw my line there, move it over to the other side, draw the other line, and then we'll cut the hole out. All right, so all right, this should be good. So we'll move it to the other side. All right, so got the left side drawn, got the right side drawn. What I did was I did a rough estimate or a rough measurement. I actually used a measurement from here down to this line. Used a yardstick to kind of line the tops up. I tried to make sure they were level with each other so they didn't, or so that they don't look crooked as you're standing back from them. All right, the light kind of lets you see it pretty well here, but you see this body line right here, it goes up, and there's the line here. So this is what you're going to use to align the front template. You can see here, they got the little cutout to follow the body line right there. I follow along the edge here. Taped it in place. To stay below right here, I'm a little bit below the lip right there, so stayed there, taped it in place. I find it best if I taped it on the inside here because the outside allowed it to kick out a little bit, so I wanted it taped here, so I'll have to complete that line after I pull this off. So got that drawn. I'll pull this off, flip it over, put it on the other side. All right, took the tape off, finished drawing the line there where the tape was at, moved my template through this line here, taped it in the same place so I couldn't had a gap there, finished it as well, and then that's the whole line. There you go. I've got all 4 holes cut out. This is just stuck in place. That's kind of what it's going to look like right there. So, kind of what it looks like. Not too bad. Got the rear hole cut out. That light's in place. That's not too bad either. All right, before we do the wiring, I want to bring this to your attention. This is a warning that they've placed in this box. So if you have a single 12-volt battery, you're okay. If you have multiple 12-volt batteries, you're okay, but you can only put the return and the power line across one battery, not more than one battery. And if you have an 8-volt battery system, it says you're screwed. Well, no, wait a minute, it doesn't say that. It says a voltage reducer is necessary. You can scan this here. I'll try to hold it still for a second if you want to scan it. Best I can do. Or you can contact this number here and ask them some questions. All right, there you go. All right, there's our 12-volt battery. So you can see that we have a single battery system. So because we have a gas burning engine. All right, so I'm going to look into making my electrical connection in here. So I'm going to remove this hose. Oh, look at that, was easy. Almost like I had it staged. And I need to remove this cover. You can see the words push here, here, and here. So remove this screw, pull up on these, and loosen, pop it loose, and then you'll be able to remove it. So do not operate without this cover in place. So let's look at what we have here. Appears to be the solenoid. A couple fuse blocks with only one side power. So this side looks like this side here looks like it has power on it, but this other side out here has no pins to put you an automotive fuse in. But there is one 10 amp automotive fuse here. All right, this is the harness. Battery connection. These two are the rear lights, and the bubble wrap is the switch to turn it on, and then the two front lights. So needless to say, this goes to the rear, this goes to the front. I've disconnected the negative lead of the battery. Negative. Disconnected that. I've routed the wiring harness. Dropped it down in between the frame and basically the pan for the seats and floorboard right there. The wire instructions seem to take into consideration that you have an electric cart, but I don't. I have a gas cart. So I've routed the rear harness back to the back light, and that's the hole for the light back there, and it is connected to the light. The other one isn't long enough. The other cable is not long enough to come back all the way here and route around. So what you have to do is you have to cut across. You have to cut across like I'm doing here over that way. And then you have to figure out how you're going to tie it up. So I've routed those to the rear. Got it connected to the light. Right there. Same thing over here. Just got it connected to the light. Let's get under the cart and show you what I did here. Right here's where I dropped it down. Just drop that wiring harness down right here. And I've stayed inside of this frame rail. Here's the accelerator lever rod. I actually have an extra hole right here. So I routed the harness through the extra hole. And then this stiffener tube here that connects to the outside of the body, and it connects over here as well. I went over top of it because the idea is to keep this away from any possible bottoming out or anything hitting it. And then I went, let me show you this here so I can get up underneath here. I went under this plastic tubing to help keep it secure. Now I've got the wire just laying, the wire for the switch just laying here, but I've got this one connected to the headlight over here, and this one connected to the headlight up there. I haven't tied these up yet because I want to make sure everything works before I tie everything in. So there you go, there's my routing. So for the positive connection, I already had 12 volts here all the time, so this is where I'm going to connect my inline fuse. I'm just going to use the switch, the light switch, to turn them on and off. All right. This was a 9/16 head bolt. Needed a 9/16 socket for the negative. And this is a 1/2 inch. Let's take this off. I'm going to take that off. This is the battery cable. I have to hold it while I do this, because I'll position in that direction. I'll set this back down. See, now I don't have them on top of each other. Put the nut back on. And this, messing with this, if I hit my wrench to the frame or the engine or something, I don't cause an arc because I've got the negative removed. So now my next thing is, I'm just going to take the negative here. It's on there, but not great. That nut doesn't go all the way down, and don't force it. So I got a loose connection right there, but it's probably going to do well enough for the lights. We'll see. I plan on putting my switch in the dash here, so gotta take it off so I can make sure my clearances are good. So I gotta remove a screw here, and there's a screw on the same side, same position on the other side. So we'll remove that. I got the panel pulled out just a little bit after removing the nuts, and you can see I have plenty of room right here where the warning is, or I have plenty of room right here to the left of the steering column. There's nothing in there. So what I think I'll do is I'll put it right here in this left side of the steering column. All right, but first let's test it. All right, without mounting my switch, I've connected the wires to it. I'm gonna pull to see if I got any light. So you can probably already tell I got lit up when that happens. So there's my lights. My lights in the front, nice and bright. And then there's the lights in the rear. Pretty bright also. So let's mount the switch then. All right, we're back up to the switch. We're gonna turn this off. So we're gonna pull this loose, and then we're gonna drill a hole and mount it. All right, according to the instructions, it takes a 3/8. Look, you see how wide the switch is. So that switch has got to be back here. So the hole needs to be in the center of that there. All right, there's my hole. I'll try to trim off, clean it up a little bit, and then put the hole in, put the switch in there. All right, so I put the nut on there so that enough of the thread was sticking out, so that I could get that ring on, and mounted it like that. I scarred up the old plastic a little bit, but it'll be okay. So there's my light switch. Just let me connect the wires. There I go, got my lights connected. Pull my switch. I got lights. Make sure I got lights all the way around still. Yep. All right, so now we'll reseat the panel. All right, put my screws back in, put my caps back on. Panel's complete. All right, because these connectors will be hard to get to, when I tie this up, I want to make sure I have this light laying out here so that if I ever need to replace it, I can get to this connector easily. Same thing over here. These are hard to get to. Make sure the connector's right here at the opening. All right, to help with the tie down, I've removed this plate here. What I've done is tied my harness here, and then I've pulled it tight enough all the way across here so that it doesn't interfere with the engine or transmission, and tied up the slack here, kind of loose, just one tie wrap for that. a separate tie wrap for the harness going back to the left tail light. And I've tied it up here on this metal bracket as well. All right, so then I come up along the cable here. I tucked it up in here following the cable. I tucked the lead down into where the solenoid is. This is the opening, so I made sure I tuck my harness in here so when I put the cover on, I don't interfere. I've got the inline fuse tucked down in the hole in the cavity. There. Got it here. It's pretty tight going. There's no sag going from here to the front. The hole in the frame holds it up, and then the way I routed it keeps it pretty close to the bottom of the buggy. Then under the buggy, when I come up, I've tied it to the tube there, the stiffening tube. Then I've tied it there to that plastic piece, and now I have to tie the rest of it up here. Because I can get to these relatively easy, I'm not going to do the same thing that I did in the rear and leave extra slack, so I'll just tie these up. All right, got to tie up the front, then we'll be done with the tie down. Got the front tied up there. Did the same thing to the other side, and added a tie wrap right in there. All right, so that's good for the tie down. Now we need to wrap things up and then mount the lights. I'm going to put this cover back on. All right, we're going to put the cover back on. Right here. Make sure I'm not pinching any wires. You can see my ground wire right here. It's going over the edge of the lip. That needs to be back over here. And push that down in there. So there we go. Then we can, everything okay? Mount the cover, and then we'll screw it down. So we'll do that. All right, so once you do this, make sure you follow the instructions here and press to secure, press firmly at arrows. So when you do that, you'll hear a distinct pop that they're already down, so you're not going to hear it here. And then the last thing I need to do in here, besides cut tie wraps, is install my handy dandy air intake hose. There you go. Hose is installed. Please cut your tie wraps. That's just ridiculous to leave tie wraps. And cut them square so that you don't leave a shark fin here to snag on everybody that ever tries to do anything in here. So, all right. We're good. Now at this point, we just need to mount our lights and cut our tie wraps. All right, I'm going to mount the lights, but I'm not going to use the screws on the headlights. And I'll show you why. But this is what I am going to use. And everything that I got is stainless except for these. I didn't see these in a stainless option, but stainless is good to use on something that's going to be exposed to a lot of moisture a lot of times. Something that's going to be outside like a golf cart, so I recommend stainless. Hey Leo, it's my puppy. Alright, so this is why I'm going to use bolts. You see that gap there? That has a lot to do with the way that plastic molding around the light is formed, and it doesn't really match up with the contours of the cowl. So what I need to do is pull it tight up against it, and I can do that with bolts. So you can see there, if I bolt it tight, my form fits and there's no gaps. That's why I bought the hardware. All right, on the rear I'm going to use screws though. So let's get going. All right, for the screws, these are the screws. I'm just going to use a 1/16 drill bit, and because I want some pressure maintained on those screws for the taillights. All right, so I'm going to align my light so I don't have any holes showing, so don't have any material missing in my holes. And I'm going to try to get my angle right to make sure it's vertical, and then I'm going to tap some holes in there. So we'll do that. We'll start right here. all like that. All right, I'll do the rest and get back to you. So there you go. Mounted just fine. All right, got the other side done as well, so we'll move on to the front lights. Hey Leo, hey buddy. Hey boy. Again, a little bit different method of mounting. So I'm using a little different blade. I'm using a blade that a drill bit that will allow my bolts to go through cleanly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to slide that in towards the middle and then drill my holes while I've got it pressed so my holes don't shift. All right, there you go. Stainless steel. Pulled it nice and tight. Better than the screws would have done. All right, there you go. Installed the lights on my DS ClubCar. There you go. That's the way I did it. Hit like and subscribe. It's free. Helps me. All right, guys. Have a great summer.